What's more, on the off chance that you are a weakling and fear a dark feline passing by in the street, at that point, for what reason do you not run and rush and avoid everything that alarms you when you interrupt my blockhead and meddle with what doesn't concern you? Disclose to me whether they will give you gold or a great deal of cash to parasitize you, abnormal and stupid, dread everything from life until the breeze whistles in your ears, accepting that it is the jinn playing the voices and their voices. Yet you demand that you crush your nose in what doesn't concern you and doesn't concern you and see what they do and what is your pay. Let me know, unusual, oh man, a gaiety crasher, and your interest is your executioner. Mona Harris. In the first place, it's anything but an innocent you envision. There are very few rooms and jobs and what you think about lodgings, yet it is two enormous condos. Our neighbor used to lease them to the space for understudies and exile young ladies from different governorates. Our neighbor, Madame Cathart, was a lady more than 50 years old who was living alone after her better half's passing and the marriage of her 3 youngsters. However, nobody visited Madame Cathart from her kids, so she built up the inn. It's anything but a lodging as I educated you regarding it, yet Madame Cathart demands considering it an inn. Her home and Ing were in the engineering directly before me, since I was a young lady, and I truly love Madame Cathart, and I see her wonderful, thinking about herself and her cosmetics. And she doesn't give her a tooth. I generally went to her and approached her for food, and she was exceptionally liberal and she was giving me, and she never says no. However, she was continually grinning and took the food, and I am upbeat, and I pursued eating it with desserts that were given to me and my companion. We didn't let one know of our moms, so they didn't hit us in the genuine, and all who on the road abhorred Madame Cathart, and nobody of us knows why we see a blessed messenger. Wonderful and smells lovely, and her food is exceptionally delightful. Just like it was forever my mom cautioned me from moving toward Madame Hotel Cathart or moving toward ladies. I didn't get why. However, I didn't generally do what my mom says. I used to believe that my mom is envious of a lady, since she is more delightful than her and her food is more tasty than her. She used to advise my mom to avoid the demon, or paper, and don't bring her home, the fallen angel. Generally excellent, and doesn't loathe anybody, yet everybody is the ones who abhor them from the neighbors. My mom said when I asked her for what reason, "You are youthful and you know nothing. When you grow up, you will know and get everything." She is a reviled lady. I didn't accept my mom indeed. In the event that she was reviled, at that point, for what reason do every one of these young ladies lie? My mom stated, not by their will, oh paper. They are constrained, my dear. I took the expressions of my mom dithering in my brain. Constrained, but in what capacity can an individual be compelled to do what he doesn't need? I don't comprehend. I was 10 years of age at that point. She told my sweetheart, and she revealed to me indistinguishable words from her mom and cautioned her. And she disclosed to me something unusual. Her mom advised her to take a gander at each one of those young ladies who live in the reviled lodging. I advised her and what is in them. When we noticed before that the young ladies were actually quite flimsy, and their appearances are pale in spite of eating a great deal that Madame Cathart makes it consistently. We chose to encroach and enter the lodging or the place of Madame Cathart to perceive what is inside. We moved toward the entryway. I heard the voice of Madame Cathar shouting boisterously, so my companion raced to the entryway more to recognize what was going on, and when the lady shouted, and I followed her with incredible interest. I needed to know the explanation behind the lady's shouting as well. The entryway of the inn was open. We went into Madame Cathar's home, and we were trembling with dread and strain. The shouting originated from one of the rooms, the keep-going path on the right. We went into the live with extraordinary interest. Our little feet trembled with dread, and our teeth slammed into one another. What's more, on that day, I saw what I would always remember until today, and in spite of the entry of each one of those years over 20 years, however, I was unable to surpass that memory. Even with a section of every one of those years, there was a 20-year-old young lady who was experiencing a meeting to remove a genie from her body. The young lady was there as an elderly person with a long white whiskers, and there were numerous young ladies in the room taking a gander at the young lady with fear. And Madame Cathar remained close to the sheik, and I stood trembling and adhered to the divider. I need to escape the room, and from the frightfulness that I see, I was unable to move. I was watching what was occurring before me with extraordinary interest and dread, and I was unable to move from my place. My companion hurried out of the stay with dread and fled, yet I was unable to move. Her hair rose totally up as though somebody was pulling at her from her hair, and the young lady began shaking and moving in an exceptionally savage manner and ascending. And she wavered, "Every one of you will kick the bucket, you will all pass on, you will never get away." And afterwards she got up from her bed, and stood up in the center of the room on one hand, and enveloped with the room like a fan. And she began inclining in a bizarre way, while she was dead on one foot, and took 10 monstrous and dangerous route back to her body until her head contacted the ground, yet didn't fall, and afterward passed on Madame Cathar, and nibble her neck. She says, "Will ye bite the dust, we all?" I took Madame Cathar shouting, and the young ladies shouted, and here the sheik drew closer and began rehashing a few refrains and words, and beating the young lady with a little stick on her feet, until I left Madame Cathar and began shouting and shuddering viciously for a considerable length of time, and the sheik presents the sections and rehashes and hits them harshly. My jeans, I felt that something had fixed my feet on the floor, and it kept me from getting away as my better half did. The young lady tumbled to the ground and quit shouting and lost her awareness. And I likewise lost cognizance, and didn't recollect that anything aside from that I was in my bed on my bed, and my mom parishes to me the Quran and grasps me while she is crying and says to me, "Did I instruct you not to enter the occupied lodging, O paper, when you didn't hear me out?" I didn't comprehend, and didn't I know how she arrived. However, my companion revealed to me that she was shouting while she was rushing to me.